faculty, and although the team member of the internal quality assurance cell of Sri Vasavi College, Erode, is conducting this faculty development program on the new education, the National Education Policy 2020, the merits and demerits. So certainly, I would like to throw some thoughts on the merits and the demerits of the National Education Policy. Dear friends, see, when Dr. Abdul Kalam has launched the Developed India Vision 2020, he expected the human resource need also to be developed to meet the challenges of achieving the Developed India Vision 2020. It means his aim is to achieve 50% gross enrollment ratio and give more focus on research, innovation, and discovery. The third aspect is create a global human resource cadre. That means one side we have to develop, we have to evolve a new education policy which will develop the human resource which can achieve the vision of Developed India 2020, 20 years back. That means any policy, public policy of the government, the economic policy of the government, the industrial policy of the government, the agriculture policy of the government, what is the goal? What is the mission? What we are going to achieve over 20 years or 30 years down the line? So how we need to evolve the vision to be realized. For any vision to be realized, you need a human resource. You need a science and technology. You need a research. You need a production. You need to compete with the world. And at the same time, you have to have more foreign exchange revenue by export earnings, thereby increasing the wealth of the nation, the economy of the nation. At the same time, ensure the GDP is equivalent to the National Prosperity Index. The National Prosperity Index is nothing but the prosperity lies only with the few rich people in the country. The prosperity should be distributed evenly across the society, across the people, from the common man to top level, from the poor to rich. The distribution has to be wealthy enough to lead a quality of life by everyone. That means GDP is not simply is the parameter to reflect the economic growth of the nation. No. Unless we achieve the GDP growth, which is equivalent to that of the National Prosperity Index, which empower the each and every citizens of this country, the GDP alone will not be able to reflect the growth of this nation. So hence Dr. Kalam felt the need for reforming the education sector, the school education, the higher education sector, and the research and innovation, and create a knowledge society, a knowledge empowered nation, a knowledge superpower. That means Dr. Kalam envisioned is not a simple superpower, வல்லரசு அல்ல, அறிவார்ந்த வல்லரசு. அப்துல் கலாம் கனவு கண்ட கனவு வெறும் வல்லரசு அல்ல, அறிவார்ந்த வல்லரசை கட்டியமைக்க வேண்டும் என்ற கனவை கண்டவர் டாக்டர் அப்துல் கலாம் அவர். அதனால்தான் அவர் 11th பிரசிடென்ட் ஆன உடனே தமிழ்ல பேசலாமா, இங்கிலீஷ்லயே கண்டினியூ பண்ணுவா?
Sir, your convenience, sir. Bilingual பண்ணிக்கலாம், your convenience, sir.
Okay, whichever is convenient, I will go ahead. Okay, anyway, I will mix and match so that it is easy. So, 11th president ஆகி முதல் ரிபப்ளிக் டே அட்ரஸ் அவர் கொடுக்கும் பொழுது 2003ல் அப்துல் கலாம் அவர்கள் கொடுத்த அந்த ரிபப்ளிக் டே அட்ரஸ் வந்து எஜுகேஷனை பற்றி தான். ஸோ எஜுகேஷனில் ரிஃபார்ம் கொண்டு வரணும். ஸ்கூல் எஜுகேஷன், ஹையர் எஜுகேஷன், ரிசர்ச்சில் எப்படிப்பட்ட ஒரு மாற்றத்தை கொண்டு வரணும், எதற்காக கொண்டு வரணும்னா 2020க்குள்ள இந்தியாவை ஒரு வளமான நாடாக, ஒரு அறிவில் சிறந்த வல்லரசு இந்தியாவாக உருவாக்க வேண்டும் என்ற அந்த கனவை நனவாக்குவதற்கான அப்படிப்பட்ட ஒரு மேன் பவரை பள்ளியிலிருந்து உயர்கல்வியிலிருந்து ஆராய்ச்சி வரைக்கும் கொண்டு வரணும்ன்றதுக்காக தான் அந்த எஜுகேஷனை பத்தி வலியுறுத்தி அந்த ரிபப்ளிக் டே அட்ரஸை பேசினார். அதை நான் ப்ரிப்பேர் பண்ணதுல கூட இருந்ததுனால நான் அதை வந்து தெளிவாக உங்களுக்கு சொல்றேன். அதை பேஸ் பண்ணி தான் அன்றைய மத்திய அரசு, காங்கிரஸ் அரசு, யூபிஏ அரசு ப்ரொஃபசர் யஷ்பால் அவர்கள் தலைமையில ஒரு கமிட்டி அமைச்சது. அந்த கமிட்டியில ராஷ்டிரபதி பவன்ல ஆஸ் அ டைரக்டர் டெக்னாலஜி இன்டர்ஃபேஸ் என்ற பதவியில நான் இருந்தேன், என்ற பொறுப்புல இருந்தேன். டாக்டர் கலாம் அவர்களை ரெப்ரசன்ட் பண்ணி டாக்டர் கலாம் அவர்கள் கொடுத்த என்னென்ன டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர்மேஷன் வர வேண்டும் என்ற கருத்தை வலியுறுத்தி அந்த கமிட்டியில நான் ப்ரொஃபசர் யஷ்பால் அவர்களுடன் உரையாடி, அந்த கமிட்டி ராஷ்டிரபதி வந்து எங்களை பார்த்தது, டாக்டர் கலாமை பார்த்தது, அதுக்கப்புறம் என்னைய பார்த்தது. நாங்க 2 பேரும் டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணி அதுக்கப்புறம் எங்களுடைய கருத்துக்களை எங்க வைத்து அந்த கருத்துல தான் சிபிஎஸ்இ சிலபஸ் மாற்றி அமைக்கப்பட்டது. கம்ப்ளீட் சிபிஎஸ்இ சிலபஸை வந்து மனப்பாட கல்வி முறையில் இருந்து ஹையர் ஆர்டர் திங்கிங் ஸ்கில்ஸாக பயிற்றுவிக்கப்பட வேண்டும். மாணவர்களை மனப்பாட கல்வி முறையிலிருந்து மீட்டெடுக்க வேண்டும். காம்ப்ரிஹென்சிவ் கண்டினியூயிங் எவாலுவேஷனை கொண்டு வர வேண்டும். அவர்களுக்கு வந்து பாடப்பதில் மதிப்பெண் போடுவதற்கு பதிலாக கிரேடிங் சிஸ்டத்தை கொண்டு வாங்க. அவர்களுக்கு திங்க் பண்ணி ஆன்சர் பண்ணுவதுபடி அவங்களுக்கு சிலபஸையும் மாற்றணும், பேட்டர்னையும் மாற்றணும், டீச்சிங் பேட்டர்னையும் மாற்றணும்னு சொல்லி அன்றைக்கு கொடுத்த ஆலோசனையின்படி தான் ப்ரொஃபசர் யஷ்பால் கமிட்டியினுடைய இம்ப்ளிமெண்டேஷன் தான் சிபிஎஸ்இ சிலபஸை ஒட்டுமொத்தமாக மாற்றி அமைத்தது. ஆனால் அது ஹையர் எஜுகேஷனை விட்டுட்டாங்க, அதுக்கப்புறம் நடக்கல. டாக்டர் கலாம் அவர்களும் நானும் இணைந்து எழுதிய மேனிஃபெஸ்டோ ஃபார் சேஞ்ச் என்ற புத்தகம், பஞ்சாயத்து டு பார்லிமெண்ட் ஹவு டு பிரிங் எ மேனிஃபெஸ்டோ, அதுல 9 மேனிஃபெஸ்டோ சென்ட்ரல் கவர்மெண்ட்டுக்கு சார்ந்த 9 மேனிஃபெஸ்டோல ஒரு மேனிஃபெஸ்டோ எஜுகேஷன், ஸ்கூல் எஜுகேஷன், ஹையர் எஜுகேஷன், ரிசர்ச் அண்ட் இனோவேஷன். இந்த ஸ்கூல் எஜுகேஷன்ல டாக்டர் கலாம் அவர்களும் நானும் இணைந்து கொடுத்த அந்த மாற்றம், அந்த டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர்மேஷன், அந்த ரிஃபார்ம் என்ன என்பதை நான் உங்களுக்கு சொல்றேன். ஸ்கூல் எஜுகேஷனை பத்தி, அதாவது ப்ரீகேஜி, எல்கேஜி, யூகேஜி ஒழிக்கப்படணும். ஒரு குழந்தைக்கு வந்து 7 வயது வரை ஒரு வீட்டுல இருந்து கற்கக்கூடிய ஒரு சூழலை உருவாக்கணும். பள்ளியிலிருந்து அவர்கள் விலக்கி தனியான ஒரு வீட்டு சூழலான ஒரு என்வரன்மெண்ட்ல இந்த குழந்தைங்களுக்கு பார்த்து இன்ஸ்பயர் ஆகக்கூடிய வகையில டீச்சர்ஸ் உருவாக்கப்படணும். அவர்கள் விளையாண்டு கற்றுக்கொள்ளக்கூடிய ஒரு ஆர்வத்தை உருவாக்கணும். அவங்களுக்கு தோல்வியை அவர்கள் சந்தித்து வெற்றி பெறக்கூடிய ஒரு அனுபவத்தை அவர்களுக்கு அங்கு கற்றுத்தர வேண்டும். ஆசிரியர்களும் பெற்றோரிடத்திலிருந்து கற்றுக்கொள்ளக்கூடிய அந்த ஒரு நற்சிந்தனைகள், நல் ஒழுக்கம், நல்ல கல்வி, நல்ல மேம்பாட்டை அவர்கள் கற்றுக்கொள்ள வேண்டும். காக்னிட்டிவ் எபிலிட்டிஸ் டெவலப் பண்ணக்கூடிய மைண்ட் அந்த 7 வயது வரை, அந்த 7 வயது வரை அந்த குழந்தைங்களுக்கு வந்து காக்னிட்டிவ் எபிலிட்டிஸ், லிசனிங், தட் பேட்டர்ன் ரெகக்னிஷன், நியூமெரிக்கல் எபிலிட்டி, அண்ட் தென் மெமரி, அண்ட் தென் குவிஸ், அதுக்கப்புறம் லிட்ரஸி, இத்தனையும் வந்து அந்த ஃபவுண்டேஷனல் கேப்பபிலிட்டியை அவங்க கற்றுக்கணும். அது மட்டும் இல்லை, அந்த வயதுல வந்து அவர்களுக்கு சத்தான உணவு கிடைக்கணும், 2 நேரமும் சத்தான உணவு கிடைக்கணும். அவர்களுக்கு அது மட்டும் இல்லை, அவர்களுக்கு மருத்துவ உதவியும் அவர்களுக்கு வேண்டும். இத்தனையும் கலந்த ஒரு தனிப்படையான ஒரு எஜுகேஷன். அப்ப 5+3+3+4 இப்படி மாத்தணும் பள்ளி கல்வின்னு எங்களுடைய சஜஷன். அப்ப அந்த 5 வயதுல அந்த குழந்தைங்க வந்து ஒரு காக்னிட்டிவ் எபிலிட்டிஸோட ஒரு நல்ல ஒரு தைரியத்தோட வந்துச்சுன்னா, அதுக்கப்புறம் ஃபவுண்டேஷன் 3 வருஷம், அதுக்கப்புறம் வந்து அந்த அடிப்படை மேத்தமெட்டிக்ஸ், பிசிக்ஸ், மேத்தமெட்டிக்ஸ், சயின்ஸ் அண்ட் ஹிஸ்டரி அண்ட் அதர் சோசியல் சயின்சஸ், இதை தெரிந்து கொள்வது. அதற்கப்புறம் 10th, 11th, 12th பொது தேர்வு இருக்கக்கூடாது, அதை மாற்றி 9, 10, 11, 12 ப்ரீ கிராஜுவேஷனா கொண்டு வந்து அவர்களுக்கு செமஸ்டர் எக்ஸாம் வைங்க, அவர்களுக்கு மல்டிபிள் ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி கொடுங்க, மல்டிபிள் சப்ஜெக்ட் ஆஃப் சாய்ஸ் ஆஃப் செலெக்ஷனை கொடுங்க. வெறும் 4 குரூப் தான் இருக்கு, 5 குரூப் தான் இருக்கு, இந்த 5 குரூப்பை தாண்டி அவர்கள் படிப்பதற்கான வாய்ப்புகளை உருவாக்கி கொடுங்க என்று சொல்லி இதை மாற்ற வேண்டும். 5+3+3+4 என்று மாற்ற வேண்டும் என்று 2014 டாக்டர் கலாம் அவர்கள் தலைமையில நானும் அவர் எழுதின புத்தகத்துல நாங்க குறிப்பிட்டிருக்கோம். அதற்கடுத்து ஹையர் எஜுகேஷன், அதுக்கடுத்து இந்த டிப்ளமோ அண்ட் ஐடிஐ, இந்த ரெண்டையுமே வந்து ஒரு 5 வருட 4 வருட படிப்பாக மாற்றி அதுல வந்து குளோபல் ஹியூமன் ரிசோர்ஸ் கேடரை உருவாக்கணும். உலகத்தரம் வாய்ந்த ஸ்கில்ஸ, திறமைய, உலகத்தில் எத்தனை ஸ்கில்ஸ் அவர்களுக்கு வேண்டுமோ அத்தனை ஸ்கில்ஸ்ல திறமை வாய்ந்த நபர்களை குளோபல் ஹியூமன் ரிசோர்ஸ் கேடரை உருவாக்குவதற்கான டிப்ளமோவும் ஐடிஐயும் நீங்க வந்து ரீவாம்ப் பண்ணி நேஷனல் ஸ்கில் டெவலப்மெண்ட் கார்பரேஷனை கொண்டு வந்ததே அப்துல் கலாமுடைய ஸ்கில் குளோபல் ஹியூமன் ரிசோர்ஸ் கேடருடைய ஐடியா படி தான். அதை வந்து சரியா போகல, அதை மாற்றி அமைக்கணும்னு அதுக்கு ஒரு சஜஷன் கொடுத்தோம். அதற்கு அடுத்து பிஎட் எஜுகேஷன் 4 வருடமா மாத்துங்க. 2 வருடமா இருப்பதை தாண்டி 4 வருடமா அதை கொண்டு வாங்க. அவர்களுக்கு ஒரு ஆசிரியர் என்பவர் ஒரு பள்ளி ஆசிரியராக இருக்கட்டும், உயர்கல்வி ஆசிரியராக இருக்கட்டும், காலேஜ் எஜுகேஷனா இருக்கட்டும், இல்ல யூனிவர்சிட்டி எஜுகேஷனா இருக்கட்டும், ஆசிரியர்களுக்கு ஒரு கண்டினியூஸா அவங்களை எவால்வ் பண்ணுவதற்கு, கண்டினியூஸ் ரிசர்ச் அப்கிரேட் பண்ணுவதற்கு, கண்டினியூஸ் நாலேஜை வந்து அவங்க எம்பவர் பண்ணுவதற்கு, அவர்களுக்கு வந்து மாணவர்களுக்கு மேலே அவர்கள் வந்து இன்ஃபார்ம்டு ஒரு லீடர்ஸா உருவாவதற்கான ஒரு வழிமுறையை பிஎட் எஜுகேஷன்ல கொண்டு வரணும். அதுக்கு டீட்டெயிலா எழுதியிருக்கோம். 4 இயர்ஸை மாத்துங்க. அதே மாதிரி காலேஜ் எஜுகேஷனை, கல்லூரி, பல்கலைக்கழகம் என்றால் ஆராய்ச்சிக்கு மட்டும்தான், கல்லூரிகள் என்றால் அது டீச்சிங் தான். டீச்சிங் பிளஸ் ரிசர்ச் இருக்கலாம். ஆனால் பல்கலைக்கழகம் சென்றால் பிஜி ஜாயின் பண்ணா பிஜியோட பிஹெச்டி முடிச்சுதான் நீங்க வெளியே வர முடியும். இப்ப இருக்கக்கூடிய பல்கலைக்கழகத்துல இருக்க மாதிரி வெறும் பிஜியை மட்டும் முடிச்சுட்டு நீங்க வெளியே வந்துடலாம், பல்கலைக்கழகத்தை படிச்சு வெளியே வந்தாலும் இருக்கக்கூடாது. அது ஆராய்ச்சிக்கான பல்கலைக்கழகம் மாற்றுங்கள். காலேஜஸ் எல்லாத்தையும் நீங்க வந்து யூஜி, பிஜி, ஈவன் பிஹெச்டி கூட நீங்க வச்சுக்கலாம் என்று அதற்கான ஒரு மாற்றத்தை கொண்டு வந்தோம். இதெல்லாம் வந்து ஆராய்ச்சிக்கு 3%, ரிசர்ச்சுக்கு 3% ஆஃப் த ஜிடிபி அலாட் பண்ணி, அந்த 3% ஆஃப் த ஜிடிபியில இனோவேஷன், பேட்டர்ன் கிரியேஷன், ஐபிஆர் கிரியேஷன், அதை தாண்டி இனோவேஷன் லீடிங் டு மிஷன் ஓரியன்டட் ரிசர்ச், ப்ராடக்ட் ஓரியன்டட் ரிசர்ச், அப்ளைட் ரிசர்ச், இந்த 3க்கும் இம்பார்ட்டன்ஸ் கொடுத்து யூனிவர்சிட்டிஸ், ஒவ்வொரு யூனிவர்சிட்டியுடைய தனி திறனை, கோர் காம்பிடன்ஸ் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணி அந்த கோர் காம்பிடன்ஸ் அந்த யூனிவர்சிட்டியில ஆராய்ச்சி, ரிசர்ச் அண்ட் டெவலப்மெண்ட், சயின்ஸ் அண்ட் டெக்னாலஜி, அண்ட் தென் இனோவேஷன், அண்ட் தென் ஐபிஆர், லீடிங் டு ஐபிஆர் அண்ட் பேட்டன் ஃபைலிங் அக்ராஸ் த வேர்ல்டு. இந்த லெவலுக்கு அதை கொண்டு போகணுன்றதுக்காக அந்த 3% ஆஃப் ஜிடிபி, இட் ஷுட் ஆல்சோ வி வுட் ஒர்க் ஃபார் இம்போர்ட் சப்ஸ்டிடியூஷன், இதெல்லாம் பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லி அந்த புத்தகத்துல நாங்கள் எழுதியிருக்கோம். அந்த புத்தகத்துல இருக்கக்கூடிய முதல் கல்விக் கொள்கை 2018 ரிலீஸ் ஆன உடனே இதுல நாங்க சொன்ன எதுவுமே இல்லை. டிஎஸ்ஆர் சுப்பிரமணியம் தலைமையில உருவாக்கப்பட்ட அந்த கமிட்டியுடைய ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டிராஃப்ட் வெளியிடப்பட்ட பொழுது 2018 எதுவுமே இல்லை. நான் உடனடியாக டாக்டர் கலாம் அவர்களும் நானும் எழுதிய அந்த புத்தகத்தில் இருந்தும் பல்வேறு இந்த நாட்டினுடைய அப்துல் கலாம் அவர்களது இந்த கனவை நனவாக்குவதற்கு 2018 வரைக்கும் ஒன்றும் நடக்கல. அடுத்த 30 ஆண்டுகள், 20 ஆண்டுகள், 30 ஆண்டுகள்ல இந்த நாடு எப்படி செல்ல வேண்டும் என்று அதற்காக 38 பக்கம் பேஜ் ரெக்கமெண்டேஷனை நான் வந்து எம்ஹெச்ஆர்டிக்கு அனுப்பினேன். அப்ப பிரகாஷ் ஜவடேகர் வந்து மினிஸ்டரா இருந்தார், அவருக்கு அனுப்பினேன். 2வது கஸ்தூரிரங்கன் கமிட்டி தலைமையில உருவாக்கப்பட்ட 2019 வெளியிடப்பட்ட டிராஃப்ட் நேஷனல் எஜுகேஷன் பாலிசி 2019 நாங்கள் கொடுத்த ஸ்ட்ரக்சரல் சேஞ்ச் அப்படியே இருந்தது. டாக்டர் கலாம் அவர்களும் நானும் கொடுத்த அந்த ஸ்ட்ரக்சரல் சேஞ்ச் ஸ்கூல் எஜுகேஷன்லையும் ஹையர் எஜுகேஷன்லையும் எல்லாத்துலயும் இருந்துச்சு. எனக்கு ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமா இருந்தது. அதை ஏற்றுக்கொள்ள வேண்டும் என்று நான் பார்த்த பொழுது அதுல ஏகப்பட்ட இதெல்லாம் மெரிட் சைடா நான் பாக்குறேன். அதாவது 5+3+3+4 4 இயர் கிராஜுவேஷன், அப்புறம் வந்து செமஸ்டர் பேஸ்ட் எக்ஸாம் ஃபார் த +2 ஸ்டூடெண்ட், அதாவது 9th 10th 11th 12th 4 இயர் பிஎட், 4 இயர் கிராஜுவேஷன், அப்புறம் வந்து யூனிவர்சிட்டிஸ் எல்லாம் வந்து மல்டி டிசிப்ளினரி யூனிவர்சிட்டியா மாத்துறது, காலேஜ் எல்லாம் அட்டானமஸ் காலேஜஸா உருவாக்குவது, இதெல்லாம் ஸ்ட்ரக்சரல் சேஞ்ச் எல்லாம் ரொம்ப தெளிவா நாங்க கொடுத்த, டாக்டர் கலாம் அவர்களும் நானும் கொடுத்த அந்த பாலிசியை எம்ஹெச்ஆர்டி கஸ்தூரிரங்கன் தலைமையிலான கமிட்டி ஏற்றுக்கொண்டது. இதெல்லாம் வந்து மெரிட்ஸ். பட் ஆனா குவாலிட்டேட்டிவ் சேஞ்ச் என்ன வேணும் என்பதில் அவர்கள் இதற்கு மேலே சில திணித்த விஷயங்கள் வந்து டிமெரிட்டா மாறி போச்சு. என்ன அந்த விஷயங்கள் என்று பார்க்கும் பொழுது, நீங்க 10th 11th 12th பொது தேர்வு வேண்டாம், அவர்களுக்கு பொது தேர்வு என்றாலே பயம் வந்து விடுகிறது. பயம் வந்துவிட்டாலே மனப்பாடம் ஒன்றுதான் வழி என்று ஆகிவிடுகிறது. மனப்பாடம் என்ற ஒன்ற வழி ஆகிவிட்டால் அவர்களுக்கு சப்ஜெக்ட் புரிவதில்லை. சப்ஜெக்ட் புரியலைன்னா சரியான இன்புட் வந்து காலேஜுக்கு வர்றதில்லை, யூனிவர்சிட்டிக்கு வர்றதில்லை. சரியான இன்புட் காலேஜுக்கு யூனிவர்சிட்டிக்கு வரலைன்னா நீங்க காலேஜ்ல எவ்வளவுதான் நீங்க உருவாக்கினாலும் எம்ப்ளாயபிள் கிராஜுவேட்டை நீங்க உருவாக்க முடியாது. இதுதான் வந்து பிரச்சனை. அப்ப இந்த பிரச்சனையை ஹவு டு ஓவர் கம் திஸ் ப்ராப்ளம், அதுக்கு தான் வந்து அந்த மல்டிபிள் ஸ்கில் செட்டோட மல்டிபிள் சப்ஜெக்டோட ஒரு 40 சப்ஜெக்ட்ஸாவது இந்த 8 செமஸ்டர்ல 9th 12th அவர்கள் வந்து செமஸ்டர் பேஸ்டு சிஸ்டம் வரட்டும். அதுக்கு மேல அவர்கள் எக்ஸ்ட்ரா படிக்க வேண்டிய ஆவல் இருந்தா அவங்க எக்ஸ்ட்ராவா படிச்சுக்கலாம், ஹானர்ஸ் மாதிரி படிச்சுக்கலாம் என்பதை சொல்லியிருந்தோம். அதை என்ன பண்ணிட்டாங்க அப்படின்னா, இந்த பொது தேர்வு வேண்டாம் என்பதை மாற்றிவிட்டு சென்சஸ் எக்ஸாமினேஷன் ஃபார் 3rd 5th 8th அப்புறம் பொது தேர்வு, இதையும் தாண்டி ஹையர் எஜுகேஷனுக்கு என்ட்ரன்ஸ் எக்ஸாமினேஷன் கொண்டு வந்துட்டாங்க. இது வந்து எப்படி இருக்கு அப்படின்னா, நம்ம உருவாக்கக்கூடிய கல்வியில நமக்கே நம்பிக்கை இல்லாத நிலையை உருவாக்குகிறார். அப்ப ஒரு என்ட்ரன்ஸ் எக்ஸாமினேஷன் வரும் பொழுது ஒரு மாணவன் அங்க என்ன படிக்கிறான்? இப்ப இன்னைக்கு நடக்கக்கூடிய நம்மளுடைய தமிழ்நாட்டில் நடக்கக்கூடிய சுச்சுவேஷன் எப்படி இருக்கு? நீட்டு என்று வந்த பிறகு ஸ்கூல் எக்ஸாமினேஷனை, ஸ்டேட் போர்டு எக்ஸாமினேஷனை, சிபிஎஸ்சி எக்ஸாமினேஷனை யாரும் கண்டுக்கிறது இல்லை. அது ஜஸ்ட் பாஸ் பண்ணா போதும். நீட்டுக்கு மட்டும் கோச்சிங் போய் ப்ரிப்பேர் பண்ணி நீங்க என்ட்ரன்ஸ் எக்ஸாமினேஷன் போயிட்டா என்ன அர்த்தம்? அப்ப அடிப்படை கல்வியை இவர்கள் வந்து அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணி படிக்க வேண்டிய அந்த அப்ஜெக்டிவே, பிரைமரி அப்ஜெக்டிவே இட் இஸ் கான். அப்ப எய்தர் பொது தேர்வு இருக்கணும், இல்ல வந்து என்ட்ரன்ஸ் இருக்கணும். பொது தேர்வு இல்லை அப்படின்னா நீங்க வந்து சென்சஸ் எக்ஸாமினேஷன் 3ஆம் வகுப்புக்கு 5ஆம் வகுப்பு 8ஆம் வகுப்புக்கு எதற்கு தேர்வு? அந்த தேர்வு கூட அந்த மாநில அரசு நிதியுதவியுடன் நடத்தக்கூடிய அந்த பள்ளி கல்வித்துறை, அந்த பள்ளி கல்வித்துறைக்கு ஒரு தேர்வு நடத்துவதற்கு அதிகாரம் இல்லை, ஆனா பள்ளி நடத்துவதற்கு அதிகாரம் உண்டு, பள்ளியை மேனேஜ் பண்றதுக்கு அதிகாரம் உண்டு, ஆசிரியர் அப்பாயின்ட் பண்றதுக்கு அதிகாரம் உண்டு. ஆனா தேர்வு நடத்த மட்டும் அதுக்கு அதிகாரம் இல்லை, அது சென்ட்ரல் கவர்மெண்ட் தான் நடத்தும்னா இது வந்து மாநில சுயாட்சியில் தலையிடக்கூடிய ஒரு பிரச்சனை. இந்த பிரச்சனை கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷனல் ப்ராப்ளத்துல கொண்டு நிற்கும். இது ஈஸியா அமல்படுத்த முடியாது, மத்திய அரசால ஈஸியா அமல்படுத்த முடியாது. சோ இது ஒரு பிரச்சனை, சிக்கல். 2வது, 6ஆம் வகுப்புல இருந்து தொழில் கல்வியை 12 வரைக்கும் தொழில் கல்வி பயிரணும் அப்படின்னா இன்றைக்கு இருக்கக்கூடிய நிலையில அது குலக்கல்வி திட்டத்துக்கு தான் வழிவகுக்கும். ஏன்னா 6ஆம் வகுப்புல இருந்து தொழில் கல்வியை அந்த லோக்கல் இருக்கக்கூடிய மண்பானை செய்தல், நெசவு செய்தல், பர்னிச்சர் மேக்கிங், இப்படி பல்வேறு வட்டார வழக்கில் இருக்கக்கூடிய அந்த கல்வியை படிச்சுக்கணும் அப்படின்னா அது என்ன தொழில் கல்வியை வந்து இன்றைக்கு இருக்கக்கூடிய காலகட்டத்தில் உலகம் வந்து இண்டஸ்ட்ரி 5.0 நோக்கி போய்கிட்டு இருக்கு, குளோபலைஸ்டு வேர்ல்ட் ஆயிட்டு இருக்கு, கிக் எக்கானமி வந்துருச்சு. இப்படிப்பட்ட காலகட்டத்தில் இன்னமும் வந்து வட்டார தொழில்களை கற்றுக்கொள்ள வேண்டும் என்று சொல்வது அடுத்த 3 வருடங்களுக்கு பிறகு கொத்தனார் வேலையே இருக்காது. இன்னும் ஒரு 3, 4, 5 வருடங்களுக்கு பிறகு ஒரு ஆட்டோமொபைல் ஒர்க் ஷாப்பே இருக்காது, கொத்தனார் வேலை இருக்காது, எலக்ட்ரிஷியன், பிளம்பர் இந்த ஒர்க்கே இருக்காது. இதெல்லாம் மாறி போகும், இருக்காது, எல்லாமே மாறிட்டு இருக்கு. சிவில் இன்ஜினியரிங் கம்ப்ளீட், the structure to design to manufacture, design to build கம்ப்ளீட்டா சேஞ்ச் ஆயிடுச்சு. 56 மாடி கட்டிடம், 5000 வீடு கொண்ட 56 மாடி கட்டிடத்தை 19 நாள்ல சைனா கட்டி முடிக்குது. 19 days ரெடி டு ஆக்குபை. டெக்னாலஜி வந்து சேஞ்ச் ஆயிடுச்சு. ப்ரீ காஸ்டிங்ல இருந்து 3D பிரிண்டிங்ல இருந்து போர்ட்டபிள் கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன்ல இருந்து மாடுலர் கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன்ல இருந்து கம்ப்ளீட்டா டெக்னாலஜி சேஞ்சிங், ப்ராசஸ் சேஞ்ச் ஆயிருச்சு, பில்டிங் கான்செப்ட் சேஞ்ச் ஆயிருச்சு. அப்ப கொத்தனான்ற வேலை இருக்காது. 20,000 ஆட்டோமொபைல் கொண்ட ஒரு பார்ட்ஸ் வந்து 2000 பார்ட்ஸ் கொண்ட ஒரு எலக்ட்ரிக்கல் கார் மாறுது. இன்னும் 3 வருஷத்துல வந்துடும் எல்லா இடத்துக்கும். ஆட்டோமொபைல் செக்டார் ஒர்க் ஷாப்பே நீ இல்ல, பிளக் அண்ட் பிளே தான், எல்லாம் சாஃப்ட்வேர் அப்டேஷன் தான், சென்சார் அப்டேஷன் தான், ஒட்டுமொத்தமா மாறுது. கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன் மாறும் பொழுது இங்க பிளம்பருக்கு வேலையே கிடையாது, எலக்ட்ரீஷியனுக்கு வேலையே கிடையாது. எல்லாம் படித்த என்ஜினியர்கள் தங்களை தாங்களே ஒரு ஸ்மார்ட் என்ஜினியராக மாற்றிக்கொண்டு வேலை பார்க்கக்கூடிய நிலைமை வரும். அப்படிப்பட்ட ஒரு காலகட்டம் போயிட்டு இருக்கும்போது இந்த 6ஆம் வகுப்புல இருந்து 12th வரைக்கும் போறது ஒரு டிமெரிட்டா நான் பாக்குறேன். அடுத்து ஹையர் எஜுகேஷன் செக்டார் வேற உங்களுக்கு கேள்வி இருந்தா நீங்க கேளுங்க, அப்ப நான் அதுக்கு பதில் சொல்றேன். ஏன்னா இது மிகப்பெரிய சப்ஜெக்ட், இது எல்லாத்தையும் கவர் பண்ண முடியாது. ஸோ வென் வி லுக் அட் ஹையர் எஜுகேஷன் செக்டார்ல என்ன அச்சீவ்மெண்ட் 2035 increasing the gross enrollment ratio to 50% by 2035. NEP aims to increase the gross enrollment ratio in the higher education, including the vocational education, from as of now 2018 26.3% to 50% by 2035. 3.5 crore new seats will be added to higher education institutions. This is a target, which is, if you look at 50% target of the higher education enrollment, GER is achieved by Tamil Nadu government, whereas the entire India achieved only 26.3% of the GDP. Now you look at why this NEP is not adaptable to every state government, because every state is progressed to a certain level. Some states are progressed, some states are developed, some states are developing, some states are underdeveloped. We have small states, we have union territory, we have big states. If you compare all the big states, Tamil Nadu is first in achieving the higher education gross enrollment ratio, 49%, which is achieved by Tamil Nadu government. Now, from now to another 20 years, Tamil Nadu should aim for achieving more than 75%. It is not only simply a gross enrollment ratio, but Tamil Nadu have a vision. Tamil Nadu should have a vision to economically empowered state, which is comparable to a developed country of the world. Tamil Nadu is no more equivalent to any other state which can be compared. Tamil Nadu should be focused, should invest on research, innovation, and product development, and IPR and patenting on various challenges faced by the country. When the entire world is working to resolve the problems of India on water, energy, environment, industry, rural development, healthcare, and manufacturing, in all these sectors, when the entire world is working to give a solution for Tamil Nadu has the potential to develop its human resource, to give a solution, to give a research-based solution, give a scientific and technology-based solution, to give a product-oriented solution to all these sectors for the entire India, not only in India, but for the world. That means, if you implement a national education policy across India, which is not suitable for a state like Tamil Nadu, for a state like Maharashtra, for a state like Kerala, every state need an independent education policy. You can have an overall framework, you can have an overall structure, but the syllabus, the framework, the preparing the quality of the manpower, it should be the responsibility of the individual states for that matter. When we look at the holistic multidisciplinary education, this National Education Policy 2020 envisages broad-based multidisciplinary holistic undergraduate education with flexible curriculum, creative combination of subjects, integration of vocational education, and multiple entry and exit points with appropriate certification. This is where the problem. If you have a 4 years graduation education, if you give multiple entry and multiple exit, majority, due to the poor economic situation prevailing in this country, due to the poor, the economy of the country has never improved for the last 20 years. Due to that, majority of the students will be forced to exit from the first year, from the second year, from the third year. Majority of the gross enrollment ratio, what is achieved today, will become a dream in next 10 years down the line. Even for Tamil Nadu, it will come down. The GER will come down because everybody wanted to gain salary, get employment, They want to save their family. They are into potential difficulty with respect to domestic, with respect to their own health problem, with respect to their own debt. So many challenges forcing the students to exit in multiple ways. Thereby, the what Tamil Nadu achieved 50% will drastically come down and will become a national average. That means this national education policy will bring down the gross enrollment ratio rather than achieving the gross enrollment ratio due to this exit class, which is not acceptable, which I feel it is a demerit. Okay. Also, there is one more problem. When we have a diploma education, when we empower the diploma education to, instead of simply creating a diplomates from the polytechnic, from the ITI, manpower, from the kind of a low-level technical manpower from the ITI, instead of strengthening that framework, if you merge technology with the graduation, which will also lead to a confusion and economical implication for those who are running the colleges. Today, college is focusing on arts, science, and humanity, and then engineering and pharma. Tomorrow, you may have to need to integrate the technical also into that. And when you teach BA, you have to teach mechanical also. You have to teach electronics and communication also. How do we encounter, how do we give a manpower? No students will get a proper focused education with reference to technical education, with reference to arts and science, with reference to engineering. The mixing, multidisciplinary is different. But you mixing the degree with 1 year exit, 2 year exit, 3 year exit will completely establish the strong technical focus, the strong adoption of the technology based on the industry 4.0, which never in India, Tamil Nadu or India itself is slowly graduating from 2.0 to 3.0. Very few automobile industry has achieved 3.0. No one has come to the standard of adopting 4.0. In that scenario, you need a specific skill-oriented, a focused, globally skilled manpower to meet the industry 4.0 standard, industry 3.0 standard. Instead of creating such a kind of a force, integrating them into the mainstream education in arts and science and humanities will dilute every subject. And finally, for getting into the employment, they have to go to not only higher education, but for the employment, they have to get into the entrance examination, interview process, and much more difficult screening process, which will make our students, higher education students, will get away from the employment opportunity. Instead of making them employable on focusing on a particular sector with the proper 4 years degree, you cannot do away them with multiple exit point. This is a major problem. So for example, what they say, certificate for after 1 year. If you quit from your undergraduation, in 1 year, you will get certificate. You will get 2 years advanced diploma, 3 years bachelor degree, 4 years bachelor degree with research. What kind of it? You keep only bachelor degree with the research as a focus. You create a manpower. Those who are going for undergraduate, you create them with the research as a focus. So your research orientation, your mission oriented research, you make them as empowered students. You prepare them to be employable in the industry. You prepare them to be employed in the research laboratories. You prepare them to be employable in the sectoral area where they can contribute further research and innovation, and then leading to the growth of the economy. You prepare the technical manpower. What they need in the technical manpower when the entire world adopts the industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is completely robotics. Manpower is less, machines are more, which is not suitable for a country like India. We need to have industry 5.0 adoption. From 2.0 to 5.0, we have to adopt, we have to transform our industry to 5.0, where human and robotics, artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning, drones, and then biotechnology, blockchain technology, the quantum computing, cloud computing, everything mixed with the deep technologies. Adoption is not the graduation. When the world is already moved to 4.0 to 5.0, why we need to have to step 1, step 2, step 3 like that? We may have to run for industry 5.0 kind of a situation. You have to develop the manpower, technical manpower to suit that kind of environment. Next 20 years, you need to focus on that. It is not like that simply make an overall, ornamental, incremental evaluation of education. No, which is not going to have. The academic bank of credit is to be established for digitally storing academic credits and from different higher education institutions. These are all the digital economy. This is all not a major reform. Multidisciplinary education research universities at par with IIT, IIMs to be set up as a model of best multidisciplinary education of global standard in the country. Okay, fine. This is very much needed. But at the same time, we should see that multidisciplinary education should not dilute. The multiple exit will certainly dilute the education system. Integrating the diploma and abolishing the diploma, polytechnics, ITIs, and integrating them into 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th will also dilute the value of technical education, the value of mainstream education, and also make the students to drop out to enter into higher education. These are the demerits. Dear friends, majority of in the B.Ed education, there are many in the teacher education, national curriculum framework for teacher education. In consultation with the NCERT, by 2030, the minimum degree qualification for teaching will be 4-year integrated BE. Stringent action will be taken against the substandard standalone teacher education institutions. That means they will take a stringent action. 4-year integrated BEd is essential. There is no MPhil. After, if you have 4-year BA graduation, then 1-year PG, then directly you can go to PhD. So then open and distance learning adoption method, online education, distance education, technology in education, National Education Technology Forum will be created to provide platform for free exchange of ideas. These are all the things we should encourage. Promotion of Indian languages. One point I have to oppose here, the Semoli, any Semoli, the classical language, strengthening the Sanskrit and all language departments in higher education institution. NEP recommends setting an Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation, a National Institute for Pali, Persian, Prakrit. Idella set pandra. Internationalization of education is coming. There is not a problem. You can focus on that. Those who wanted to study Indian classical languages, they can always study, but it should not be integrated with. It should not be made as a mandatory subject. As per the new education policy, you have to learn a classical language as a part of your graduation. Cannot be accepted and it should be opposed. And that is nothing but imposition of another language, which is not needed in the higher education segment. Those who wanted to study Tamil or Sanskrit or any other language, they can always go for a specialized purpose of study, not integrated with the mainstream education. So these are the certain things, and also financing the education sector, 6% of the GDP at the earliest they have achieved, they have assured. I don't know how they are going to ensure the 6% of the GDP for the education sector, both states and central government. It's again a question mark. It is not going to be another take up. It's not going to take up. So, dear friends, these are the initial points with reference to the education is concerned. When we look at the other points, maybe I think I'll wait for the questions, and based on the question, one more thing I would like to emphasize here is which are the conflicting points. which I would like to emphasize. The conflicting area, if you look at the state government and the central government, may get into the loggerheads, fighting in the courts, and also enacting the legislation based on the concurrent list. There are many areas, potential areas for fighting. The one area which I feel is conducting the classical examination by National Assessment Center, NAC, which comes under the MHRD, is going to be a contentious area where the state government has to fight, has to ensure its autonomy, the state autonomy, and then it has to do away with this kind of examination. Instead of that, state can conduct their own school-based examination and a monthly-based examination, and then undertake a weighted average, and then they can go for it. And certainly enacting a legislation by the state will be the right alternative, and which the central cannot overcome, because they cannot intrude into the state autonomy. The second one, abolishing the diploma and ITA and integrating with the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th is going to be another area of contention. The third one, conducting the entrance examination for the state-funded institution, higher education institutions, colleges, universities, engineering, medical is going to be the next area of contention, where a strong government, state government, can enact a separate entrance examination for higher education and do away with national entrance examination such as NEET. There is a possibility, certainly this is going to be a next contentious area where a strong state government can fight, can do away, and then ensure the autonomy of the state with respect to education sector, which is still in the concurrent list. So if we enact no government, even in the NEET, the central government has enacted has released the Gazette based on the Supreme Court direction. The NEET law, which is NEET GO, which is passed by the NEET bill, which is passed by the Parliament, does not specify the NEET should be conducted only in CBSE syllabus. Still, without understanding that these politicians are fighting in the battle of blind. Okay, so state, each and every state have the right to enact a legislation to conduct the NEET instead of NEET. They can conduct SEET, and then they can enroll based on the SEET examination under the state board syllabus. They can enroll the students for 85% of the state quota. Let the central government enroll 15% of the quota through NEET. This is possible. It can be done if we have a powerful state government. The other area where there is a conflict is going to be on the autonomous status of the colleges within the umbrella provision, within the standards set by the state government. Universities, the affiliating institution is not going to be there. Every college is going to be autonomous if that kind of a scenario arises. But each autonomous institution, the autonomous granting institution, should have the control on the syllabus, the basic syllabus, and the basic fee structure, and the education admission based on the prevailing reservation system. So these are all the areas for contentious area where state has a role to play, and the state can fight for its right. Then if you look at the central registry authority by the union government for higher education institution, is clearly a violation of Article 246(3) of the Constitution. The proposed merger of special schools for differently abled students with the regular school is a forceful effort to emphasize the inclusiveness, blatantly violates Article 14 of the Constitution. Again, a problem. Most changes suggested in the National NEP 2020, will require extensive amendments to various union and state legislation, notwithstanding the constitution as well. That means this will create a big problem. This will create a constitutional fight between the state and the central government. This bargain will give the center to overrule under the concurrent list autonomy given to the central government, but will a vice state government can fight and ensure its rights. The major fault in the NEP, it chose not to promise secular education. It does not promise secular education. NEP. That means this is again guarantees, this again a departure from the constitutional guarantee under the Article 28.1, which is again a major contentious point. No religious instruction used to be provided in the education institution wholly maintained out of the state funds. That categorically states no religious institutions is to be provided in education institution wholly maintained out of the state funds. That means it's clearly violative of the constitutional guarantee given under the Article 28.1, which again has to be each and every state has to consider. Then categorizing instead of socio and educationally backward, they have clearly earmarked socio and economically disadvantaged group. This is separating them from socially backward and deprived group is a conscious attempt to negate the social realities and defeating the spirit of the social justice mandated by the constitution, according to one of the advocate who has written detailed about the Indian Express in Times of India. He has written a very detailed article. These are the constitutional controversies which will create a problem. So not only that, there are many such aspects which will create a problem for NEP. So dear friends, certainly NEP 2020 is a need of the hour, but with the modification, with the right modification, without intruding into the state autonomy. But clearly the NEP, even though it states that it has to create a knowledge economy, it has to ensure the quality education irrespective of any social inequalities. But the stated objective, when it is translated into various missions for school, higher education and research, is not coping with the vision it is set for achieving the million goals set for India on education front. Certainly, this is not going to take us into face the challenges before us by 2050. So 2050, when the world will become 9 billion population, only 2 countries will feed the world, only China and India. But this education policy will not prepare a global human resource cadre. It will not prepare, will not empower our farmers, will not empower our agriculture domain sector with the globally human resource cadre to develop the agriculture sector through evergreen revolution. Certainly, this education policy will not prepare a human resource cadre which can empower the agriculture sector. Certainly, this education policy will not create a global human resource cadre to evolve our industry to meet the industry 5.0 demand of the nation. The entire world today has adopted a gig economy. The gig economy is nothing but a contractual labors. A gig economy is nothing but empowering the workers to make them work from home. Online workers, whether from FMCG, a fast-moving consumer goods, to pharma, BFSI, banking, financial and sector industry, or retail sector, or agriculture sector, or industrial sector, or manufacturing sector, or construction sector, whichever may be the sector. Today, it is envisioned more than 65% of the manpower is going to be ruled by gig economy. That means Gig economy necessitates our future graduates, whether from arts or science or humanities or engineering. They have to adopt the life of gig economy. That means more than 65% of the employable people will have to work from home, will have to get into contractual labors, will have to become a contractual employees. That means 2 hours you work for one company, another 2 hours you work for another company, another 3 hours you work for another company. Out of 8 hours you work for multiple companies. As long as you have the potential to work, you can work. If you are disabled, if you are not able to work, the social security, the provident fund, the majority of the social security enshrined in the constitution, enshrined in the government, will not be available to the future engineers, the future graduates, the future arts and science graduates. They will not be able to get. That is going to be the rule of the game. The labor laws amended by the labor code, the 4 kind of labor codes amended by the government of India last year, ensures the gig workers, ensures the contractual labors. There is no particular employment to a particular company. Is going to be the rule of the game. That means the students have to be empowered with multiple skill sets. The students have to be empowered not only with a particular focus, whether he is a physics student or a chemistry student or a mathematics student or an engineering student. It is not only a single domain which will empower them, but the majority, the multiple skill set what you acquire is going to define the force. The rule of the game of 5 days week is going to be changing. You work for 2 days, the rest of the 5 days is holidays for you. You earn enough, then holidays for you. That is the kind of the economy which is we are moving. So completely the education system, the focus, the gig economy, the transformation after COVID-19 is making the entire world to move towards a gig economy. In such a scenario, adopting the conventional policies, adopting a value, that means a step ahead, a incremental, a policy change will not help the country to face the challenges of the world. India have to become an economically empowered nation in another 20 years. India have to make a poverty-free nation in next 10 years. When it is possible, unless India achieves 10% growth rate, GDP growth rate for consecutively 10 years, for the next 10 years time the line, then only it is possible. It is not that whatever the gig economy which is ruling the entire globe is not adaptable to India, because India is having big workforce. If the big workforce are left with simple and this kind of a volatile employment scenario, which may lead to unrest in the economy. A volatile scenario will lead to insecurity to the aged. Those who are getting retired from the government service, from the academic service, from the professional service, today they do not have a pension. They are having a new pension policy. This itself is giving a unrest in the olden days. This itself giving a social insecurity in the olden days when you retire. When you work for the development of the country, after retirement, your life will become unstable. Your life is going to be questionable. Your life is not assured. Even after 60 years, your life is going to be unstable as and now. But if the gig economy is taking over, that is going to take over until if you are not changing the economic policies as given by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. If you adopt the global economic trend, if you adopt the global economic policies, certainly even 25 years old youth who are entering into the economic sector, who are entering into the employment sector, will have to earn, will have to save for the rest of the life in very shortest span of time. During their youth, they have to work hard and they have to work multiple way and they have to earn and save themselves to ensure the social security during their olden days. So this is the kind of the system scenario is going. It is totally complex. It is totally a very risky environment which we are heading towards. Certainly, dear friends, as a faculty, your role, your responsibility is more. You have to prepare the youth, you have to prepare the students to achieve multiple skill sets, not only a graduate on a particular discipline, but you have to ensure them to achieve multiple skill sets. You have to ensure them to achieve different skill sets which can help them to gain a gainful employment, a kind of a adaptability and agility are the two factors. You have to prepare the manpower to be adaptable. You have to prepare the manpower to be always agile. That means it is not only your education which is going to empower them. It is the kind of a multidisciplinary skill set, the multidimensional quality which you are imbibing them on the youth and the students, which is going to help them in achieving that kind of a scenario. So, dear friends, this kind of a today, as of now, 57% of the working adults in India worried about losing jobs. That means in Russia it is 75%, Spain it is 73%, Malaysia it is 71%, but India 57% is a huge when compared to any other countries which are listed now. So this is the kind of the scenario. So in this kind of a scenario, today the engineering, if you look at the engineering jobs which are having high potential, are going to be certainly, if you look at the kind of a scenario, just a minute. In the engineering area, there are some interesting big opportunity, 5 big opportunity in India. It means by 2020 to 2025, in electronics alone, $105 billion opportunity. Water management, water technology, around $100 billion opportunity. Defense production, $55 billion opportunity. EV charging, that is electronic vehicle charging, $20 billion opportunity. Data center, $20 billion opportunity. That means around $300 billion opportunity is there for these kind of specialized jobs. Then, if you look at the kind of what kind of a challenges, is not only challenges, what kind of quality, that kind of the capability, what you need today, which everyone has to top skill set. The top skill set what you need today, which you have to ensure. That means kind of a adaptability, agility, and then the just a minute. Sorry. So, in the kind of a gig economy, in a kind of a scenario where you need a completely contractual and online based and a home work from home kind of economy, every student should possess a multiple skill set of analytical thinking, innovation, and then active learning and learning strategies, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality and initiative, local initiative, leadership and social influence, technology use and monitoring and control, technology design and programming, resilience, stress tolerance and flexibility. Resilience, stress tolerance and flexibility, reasoning, problem solving and ideation. These are the skill set which is needed to face the next 20 years or 30 years down the line in front of us. So dear faculty members, I sincerely request every one of you It is not that you are preparing a graduate alone. It is not that you are preparing a, a graduates or a postgraduate alone. You are going to create a global human resource cadre. You are going to create a leader who have a vision, a leader. You are going to create a leader who is having a passion to transform the vision into mission. You are going to create a leader who is having a courage in taking decision. You are going to create a leader who is practicing a transparency in each and every action. You are going to create a leader who is walk into an unexplored path. You are going to create a leader who should know how to manage the success and how to manage the failure. Yeah, you are going to create a leader who observes the failure within himself and gives the credit of success to his team members. You are going to create a leader who can work with integrity and succeed with integrity. This is the kind of the leaders you are going to create as a faculty member, as a professors, as a lecturers, as a institutional head. You are going to create such a kind of a leadership. So, dear friends, you are going to think out of the box. The National Education Policy 2020, even though the central government have a roadmap to implement it in the next years to come, but certainly this is going to face a lot of difficulties. The timeline what they have given, if you look at 2021 to 2022, is a formulation of National Curriculum Framework for School Education. National Curriculum Framework for Teacher Education is going to be up to 2022. In 2022 to 2023, a common guiding set of national professional standard for teachers will be evolved by 2022 to 2023. Teachers prepared for a transformation in the assessment system. So teachers will be prepared for transformation in the assessment system. By 25 to 26, attaining universal foundational literacy and numeracy in all primary schools for all learners by grade 3, 25 to 26. By the time this government is there or not, or the new education policy will be dropped, or new policy will be framed, we don't know. The state and union territories, governments, to optimize the resources through mechanisms to group or rationalize schools such as school complexes. At least 50% of the learners exposed to vocational education in the school and higher education system. That means 50% they wanted to push to the vocational education. I don't know which they are planning to achieve before 2025 to 2026. The universal provisioning of quality early childhood development and care will be achieved only by 2030. We don't know. So it's a long way to go, whether long hurdles to go, long bottlenecks to go, long fight to go between state and the center, unless the policy is streamlined or adaptable or agile to make India as an economically empowered nation, to make India as a knowledge superpower, to make India as a comparable to any of the country in the world. We have to, this NEP is not sufficient, which is lack of credentials, which is lacking of quality objectives, which is lacking a visionary thought. That is the problem. So even though structure is good, the structure on top of the structure, the pillars are weak. So we have to evolve the pillars which can empower this nation to achieve greater heights. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful knowledge sharing with us. Now the meet room is open for interaction with the Honorable keynote speaker.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Dr. Sivaprakasam.
Good afternoon.
We have already conducted a collaborative robot workshop. We have already allocated one special session for Industry 4.0.
Very good.
Then another session for the interaction with the industry, and more than 20 engineers from 10 industry they have already attended, sir. So that is for your information. Then another
Very good
question
initiative.
is,
Very good initiative.
okay. Then another question is, what is your opinion about filing patents? Because I have filed 2 Indian patents and 1 Indian patent published in the Indian Patent Journal. Then by this February this year, I have filed one international patent, PCT. Then recently I have received international search report, positive indication, and my patent will be published in the International Patent Journal within 2 months, sir.
Great, congratulations. It's a
Thanks,
good
sir.
initiative. You are in a path of progress to make your students to adopt industrial 4.0. But my suggestion is to not only 4.0, you aim at 5.0 so that you prepare them, because India 4.0 will be a strong opposition, because this is ruling out our employment workforce. 5.0 will be able to adaptable, and we should be able to adopt 5.0 so that we can create a future society which is working in tandem with machine and human intelligence. So you can also focus on that. And with reference to the patent filing, certainly your patent should be able to bring a product. Your patent should be able to bring a mission-oriented objective. So I hope you will be focusing, and you may have focused already on that, and better to file a PCT, and so that it can reach across the world, because whatever we do in India is applicable to the 3 billion population living across the world, a developing country, even though it may not be suitable for the developed nations. But whatever you do from the already established patent, you focus on water, energy, agriculture, environment, and then industry and manufacturing. These sectors, there are a lot of challenges which you can file a patent. And certainly in your own physics area, a great novel ideas are there which can empower empower India if you focus on the patenting. I don't know which area you have patented, but my hearty congratulations to you for moving ahead and showing the path for institutional success. My greetings to you. Thank you, sir.
So I have filed PCT patent, sir. I have filed that. Then I have received international search report also. I'm focusing on ballistic missile, that is modified re-entry vehicle design system. So that is my area.
Very good, very good. That is very, very important, because in the defense, the re-entry vehicle, the reusable launch vehicle are going to be the next future mission. So re-entry vehicle, air breathing system, and the kind of a re-entry launch vehicle from single stage to orbit to multi-stage to orbit. So many areas are very, very possible areas in the space as well as aerospace and the aeronautics. Certainly your area of research is really appreciate. I appreciate the research which you are initiated, and certainly this patent, you just work with DRDO, you enter into the project mode with the DRDO, and then work for a patenting for a challenging task which they are facing now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, very good afternoon, sir. I am Dr. Thamarakan, Thomas, sir. As for a new education policy, in the draft, I have noticed that under a single roof, it means in one campus, we will have multi-dimensions of education system. It means curriculums, engineering, agri, marine, linguistic, arts and science, everything. So under the single campus, under a single roof, we will have multi-dimensions of various curriculum and everything. My point is, my clarification is, since our India is rural-based economy and village-based education system, is it possible to implement in our country? Because our students have to travel for long distance to reach this campus to have their education. Otherwise, every day it is not possible to come over and come back. They have to stay. So economically poor and weaker sections of students, how they will manage this type of nature of education? Is it possible to implement, sir? To what extent your clarifications?
Dr. Thamarakan, right question, because it is a difficult proposition. See, the main idea of multidisciplinary is based on the research. The research is not on a single discipline basis. The research is for multidisciplinary, because interdisciplinary research is the need of the hour. So, but the policy, like, you know, see, when we talk about a particular research, instead of focusing on the research, they are creating multidisciplinary university. Teaching is different from research. See, teaching should not be clubbed with research at the undergraduate level, because you need to have a research focus, but does not mean that you have to bring everything under a single roof. It can be, the multidisciplinary research can be at the state level or at the district level, but not at the every level. It is not possible. Or at the regional level, we can have a multidisciplinary research institutions. But teaching institutions should be separate, because teaching institutions should be separate. Because once you enter into research, suppose you go for a medical and engineering, medical is different, engineering is different as of now. But there is a biomedical engineering as a one subject available with the engineering subject. But if you have a medical and engineering together, and we can have both biomedical subject can work in tandem and collaboration with each other, and they can produce a innovative mission-oriented product research. So at the research level, at the top level, you can have multidisciplinary universities, not at the district level. Maybe at the regional level, at the state level, you can have. But at the district level or at the tier 2 city level, you need to have a unitary, a disciplinary level kind of education itself is enough. It is suitable with reference to our economical condition, and that is enough. That will be ideal. That will be ideal. But your fear is true. Your fear is sustainable. So that is why, because achieving multidisciplinary education after 30 years is a long way to go. I don't know it will achieve its end, because when you do not have a proper policy to achieve that, which is not going to be a reality soon. Thank you, sir. Your mic is off.
Sorry, sir. One more doubt, sir. With regard to new education policy, my perception, my observation is all the state governments are going to lose its autonomy in regard to education system, isn't it, sir? So, as per the new education policy, the central government is empowered many things. So, the hands of the state governments are tied up. Regarding this aspects, what about your valuable suggestions and points, sir?
See, as you said, the national education policy intrudes into the state autonomy in a bigger way, which will lead to multiple constitutional legislative fight, and which is not going to be the cakewalk for the national education policy to be implemented as envisioned by the central government. So, yes, state government who wanted to be subservient to the central government can only adopt and create a problem for the state. Okay. But a state government who wanted to ensure the state autonomy will not accept and adopt the policy NEP as its entirety. So there are, I have pointed out many areas of controversy, many areas of confrontation, many areas of intrusion, either it is a school education or higher education or research. So the total, the NEP itself is a total lack of vision for the next 30 years. So when the NEP is lacking the vision for next 30 years, this policy is going to be a half-cooked policy which will suit narrow-minded, narrow-ended objectives of a ruling government, nothing else. It is not for the humanity to prosper. It is not for India to become an economically developed nation. The mere act of degrading a Ministry of Human Resource and Development to a simple Ministry of Education itself is a retrograde step by the central government, which itself shows their vision has narrowed down to a lower level. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful clarification. Thank you. Very kind of you, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Sir, I wanted to have a small clarification. I'm Rajagopal.
Yes, Dr. Rajagopal. Yes, sir.
As all of us know, as you have also presented so far in depth, the role of teachers either in the higher education or in the school level is vital to shape the nation, because teachers are the backbone, and every UGC pay revision, the first paragraph will mention the importance of teachers and teaching. However, in the last few decades, I can boldly say in the last few decades, all of us know we need not deliberately speak about that, what is happening in higher education. Politics has included. Therefore, decision making, policy making, suggestions, ideas should go from the teacher. Instead, we are getting instruction from the administrators. What is the responsibility of teachers in this respect, and how the teachers can react?
You are absolutely correct, sir. Because if the reform comes from the top, the reform does not simply come from the top unless you get a real ground level feedback from the teachers who are teaching and who are facing the students. There are many challenges for the teachers today. The students, the input to you from the school is not up to the mark. That means the input what you are getting is not, you are not able to focus on the quality of education which you have to impart them, and you are not able to focus on the way you wanted to prepare them to achieve higher academic standards. That means you have to spend your much time in making them even to understand the subject. So that is one of the basic problem that every teacher is facing. And second level, the technology adoption, the kind of the laboratory environment what you have is not comparable with the kind of the global standard. So the kind of the information which is available today in the public domain and the kind of the syllabus what you are teaching them, there is a big gap. That means empowering you and evolving the teachers with a kind of a right kind of an ecosystem to empower themselves, to adopt themselves, to get motivated to do research. All these things are lacking. To attend a seminar, to international conference, and to publish a paper, and to everything is becoming a kind of a customary situation rather than a kind of a achieving target. So there is a gap again. So and also a kind of an indifferent attitude towards a government institution, a private institution, and other institution for research. A research or innovation come from anywhere. It does not matter whether it is come from only from the government sponsored institution or a private institution, means it is a low grade institution. You see, these kind of a situation should not be encouraged. So the challenge is anywhere, wherever there is a quality innovation, there is a quality research, the academic performance is higher and the contribution to the research is higher, they should be properly rewarded and that should be properly awarded, and they have to be incentivized to do the research. Then only the teaching and research and teaching. So research, teaching, research. These are the three cycle combination. Teaching, research, teaching have to be in cycle. Without that, you can't empower the teaching. You can't empower the teachers. So our system of funding, our system of today, the funding from the UGC or funding from the state and central government or funding from the R&D institutions having a kind of a partial attitude towards the teachers and towards institution, towards the state government, which is not going to take us to any level. So it is essential to get the feedback from the teachers at the ground level and understand the difficulties, understand the problem, and creating an enabling environment for the teacher and the student to work in tandem to achieve the objective of the institution or the country. So that should be the objective. And certainly this lack of potential, this NEP, even though it talks about it, the implementation, it is going to be a failure. Implementation cannot be possible because there is no clarity. It's completely lack of clarity which is there in the NEP, which will lead to bureaucrats to tune their laws and the rules, regulations for their benefit of the ruling class, for their benefit, because there is no clarity, there is no any statement or a vision should be unambiguous. Any ambiguous vision will always lead to confusion. Thank you.
As you said, there are several places in NEP, they are speaking very high, like mountain, but they have not spoken about the ways and means.
Yes, exactly.
And I have typed you a message also that in this NEP, whether they have suggested any methodology to make the education system to be knowledge-based or understandability.
No, not at all. Not at all. They are leaving to the focus itself, the vision is still not there. That's what I told you. Yeah, any education policy should work for the economic vision of the nation. Education policy should be drafted, should be evolved to meet the next 20 to 30 years of the vision of the country. Where we have to take our country to which place, whom we are going to compete, how you are going to make our nation an economically empowered nation. In what way you are going to do. That should be the objective to draft a vision. To meet this objective, this economic objective, this knowledge objective, this innovation objective, we are going to prepare this kind of potential human resource. And to prepare this potential human resource, this is going to be our school system. This kind of a kind of graded vision. To achieve that vision, we are preparing this kind of a education policy means then it is matching. There is no way it is mentioned. There is nowhere it has find a place on it. So that's what I am telling you. It is a lack of vision. The NEP is a complete lack of vision for the next 30 years. That means it is a half-cooked vision and which is not going to meet the objective, which will get into the entangle into the legislative objection between the state and the center.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You have once again emphasized it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Problem.
I am Vaidyalinga from the mathematics department, sir.
Yes, Dr.
Sir, in our country, in our recent days, all of you have seen the job opportunities are only based on the competitive exams. But as you said earlier in your speech, only you have concentrated in a national education policy. The universities are concentrated only on the research area. The colleges, higher education colleges also concentrate on the research areas only. When we go on a research area, we have to concentrate particular area only, means it is not enough to clearing these kind of competitive exams in this competitive world. This is the lacking in our national education policy, sir.
See, competitive examination, national education policy is not preparing you as employer. It is preparing you, it is filtering you on the for studying itself for higher education. For higher education study itself, it is filtering you through entrance examination. There is nowhere it is preparing you for employment. Where is the employment examination? If you clear your graduation, is it assured that you will get a job? No, it is not. See, when you prepare your graduates, whether it is arts or science or engineering, where is your policy for employment? Where is the policy for industry? Where is the policy for industrial growth? Where is the policy for manufacturing sector growth? Where our manufacturing sector is growing now? Our total economy itself is minus 23.9%. Even after COVID recovery, if you could, when it will achieve 10% growth rate for next 10 years, where is the assurance? Then what is the meaning of preparing the graduates for undefined economy, for undefined objective of employment? There is nowhere. So it is the question of, see, as I told you, the entire global economy is going to be moving towards gig economy. The entire employment is going to be on a contractual employment. The entire sector is going to focus on employing people who work from home, to assure work from home. So the entire ruling, the payment terms is going to be what you work and what you get. What is the time and effort model? A fixed pay model. You complete the work, for the quantity you will be paid. There is no question of a continuous employment assurance. There is no question of a kind of a social security after your employment. Hiring and firing is going to be the order of the day. This is the kind of the scenario the country is going towards. Then what is the question of preparing graduates? For what for you are preparing the graduates? What for you are preparing your human resource? That is the problem. So when the country is moving towards a kind of a gig economy, you need to prepare them to be adaptable, to be agile, to the matching any kind of a challenges, any kind of the job requirement. A person, even with the physics, should be able to work in a chemistry laboratory. A person who are engineering should be able to work in an agriculture field. Then how do we create a human resource? If you are floating around to meet the global demand, if you do not have a policy of creating a manpower for build the nation with the evergreen revolution, You need a huge manpower on agriculture and agro-food processing and agriculture-related activity. Completely, the ecosystem has to be defined for the next 20 years to beat China on giving the food to the people of the world, 9 billion people of the world. Where is your vision? Where is your plan? Where is the plan for the government? Without having plan, how do you prepare the human resource? You have to prepare, you have to reduce your import, substitute import. That means you have to prepare your products and systems and services to replace the import substitution. And where is the plan for that? In the industrial sector, in the manufacturing sector, in the service sector, where is the plan? So you need to have a plan. Then only you can prepare the people. Today, you see what is the enrollment for engineering. Today, the result has come out after last 1 month of this counseling. Out of 1,62,000 seats, engineering seats, only 71,000 is got filled up. Only 71,000 got filled up, less than 50%. Less than 50%. Maybe around 35 to 40% only got filled up. That means the students lost the hope. The government will give the employment even if you do. To work in Swiggy and Uber Eats and to work in a media industry, why you need to complete BE? What is the need? It means country has not given the vision for the youth. Country is not given the vision for the education institutions. When the entire employment scenario is completely topsy-turvy, if it is not changing,
I feel that
the question of professors working, the question of the faculty members working today is again going to be a question whether you get employment continuously or not. It's going to be a big question mark. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I get clear, sir. Sir, one more doubt, sir. In our Kothari Commission, we should know clearly 10 plus 2 plus 3 pattern. And what you suggest 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 patterns are here? What are the age groups to that?
5 plus means 3 years to 7 years. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is 3 years to 7 years is the 5 pattern. And then 3 years, that means second standard to third standard to third, fourth, fifth, another 3 years. Then 6th, 7th, 8th, another 3 years. Then 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th is another 4 years. 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Myself, Dr. Maitli, sir. As you said about the multidisciplinary institutions which need to be the developing scenario of any nation, I could come across the words like single stream higher educations will be phased out over time. But my question is, as you already answered MTK Thamarikanan sir's question, are we ready with the implementing strategies or methodologies that to adopt? We were not ready. Then how could we feel that the need of the hour will be satisfied? Definitely, it's a $1 million question here, sir. And also, I find the repeated word like autonomy throughout the higher education draft. And it also says that the autonomy of public institutions will be backed up by adequate public financial support. And the next word it comes such as like private institutions with public spirited commitment to high quality equitable education will be encouraged. So it seems that the government is moving away from its responsibility of giving a high quality education, or is it moving towards the privatization of in education field too? That it stands as a question only, no, sir.
Simply, if you put it, you yearn for your own bread, okay? They will make you to yearn your own bread, and you make yourself autonomy. And they are not going to be any funding which is going to come to you as a private institutions. So there is going to be unless the institution, even a public universities are going to make to earn their livelihood. You see, this Anna University of Institute of Excellence, you earn your own resource. Even then, you are getting funding. You earn your own resource from the students' fees, or you earn your own resource from the academic industry collaboration. So it is a question of autonomy will ultimately lead you to make yourself survive by your own.
So that must be encouraged. Is it?
They're encouraging like that, because see, how come you are when they have opened 100% FDI route for the higher education sector, when a MIT from US or a kind of a Stanford from US comes to India and fight with Madras University with a kind of a equivalent amount of fees, which university our students will join? Let me know. Tell me. That means you will be made to compete with the giants without arming yourself. Without equipping yourself, you will be made to compete with the giants. That is going to be the order of the day. Unless you adopt, you modify your syllabus, you attract the students by the faculty, strengthening the faculty, you empower, you create a digital environment for your school, for your college, you make an online learning system as order of the day, you create a digital classrooms, you empower your faculty member with research and patenting and innovation capabilities. It is very, very difficult to compete with the international giants in education.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir, for clarifying our queries. Now it is the time for Thank the Gathering. Now I invite Mrs. S. Sangeeta, Assistant Professor and Head, Department of Information Technology, to propose vote of thanks.
I feel very happy in rendering vote of thanks. First, I wish to thank and profound my gratitude to our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. V. Pundas sir, former advisor to President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. In spite of his heavy schedule, who accepted our invitation and graced the function today. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence and for sharing knowledge with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next, my heartfelt thanks goes to our management for their support and motivation to conduct this webinar. My sincere thanks to Mr. Kumar, Advocate, and Mr. Balu, personal assistant, for their timely support. Thank you, sir. Next, I take this opportunity to express my deep sense of gratitude to our principal, Dr. N. Jayakumar sir, for his valuable guidance. Thank you, sir. At this event, I would like to express my sincere thanks to our Dean, IQAC team, and faculty members for their support and bringing this webinar in a grand success. Once again, I thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for your excellent contribution, sir. Fine.
Thank you, sir.
Srivasvi College, Erode, Internal Quality Assurance Cell, Faculty Development Program on New Education Policy, Merits and Demerits, meeting hereby adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all for your active participation. Thank you.
Yes, sir.